Welcome to my channel. Here we have the Lemax Wicked Coven, item number 35017, purchased in 2023 and broken in 2025. This is going to be a repair video on this piece. Come join me as I make the mistakes that you don't have to. So let's get this repaired. Welcome to the bench. I was recently working on a small witchy Halloween village in my dining room when my centerpiece failed. As I was telling the Village Displayers and Creators Facebook group, I feel as though I've been cursed, as this is the second Lemax centerpiece that has failed this season, and I believe it is the exact same failure as the Black Raven Manor. While I'm in here, I'm also going to try to address the noise from this piece, and it has just gotten absolutely atrocious before failing. The failure on this piece is that it doesn't light up nor move. It is a brick, but a lovely brick none the same. If I cannot fix the mechanical, I'm just going to make this into a light show piece. So let's get started. Looking around the base, we have foam backer applied. I don't have any foam sheets at the time of filming, so I'm going to attempt to save this foam using a hairdryer and a pick tool in my hand. The goal is to loosen the glue and push and pull downward. Only pulling on the foam will absolutely break it. Since I am using heat, there is going to be some distortion to the foam, and I can trim off any excess after reapplying it at the end. Now, this foam is completely 100% on every possible centimeter glue to the base of this figure. Take your time when doing this. I was using high heat on the hairdryer and going back and forth to loosen the glue, then do my push and pull motion downward, and I was able to work it off with only a couple minor little rips around a couple of the edges. I took about 11 minutes just to get the foam off of the base of this figure, just trying not to break it. If you are planning on replacing the foam, by all means, heat it up and start pulling. Just know it will come off in pieces. Alright, we've almost got the foam off the bottom, so we can take a look at the base of the figure and see if there's any additional items that are going to have to be addressed. So here's our foam. Let's set it off to the side. And looking at the bottom, we have 2 screws and a bead of glue all the way around. So now, it's definitely time to work with the hairdryer and get that loosened up. And looking at the screw position, it actually lines up with the ghoulie in the well, so it's most likely holding some part of the well together. So I'll get those removed. I'm changing up the camera angle as this piece is quite large and is difficult to film while on the bench. I'm going to be using a number 1 Phillips head screwdriver to remove these 2 screws and set them aside. I have already gone around the base of the building for about 3 to 4 minutes with my hairdryer on high heat, not staying in any one place too long to prevent any warping of the plastic. Using my trusty hooked pick tool, I'll start prying around the base to free the inner workings. On this particular piece, it is safe to say that during manufacturing, there was no expense spared with hot glue. There is an absolute ton. When doing this, take your time and work the figure out. Now, here is the trick that it took me actually, I figured it out by accident, to be perfectly honest, but the well itself, there were the 2 screws holding the legs of the well in place, and it's a clip style on the inside. I didn't catch this until later on, and I tried heating it up to get it to pop loose, and it's a pretty good compression fit, to be perfectly honest. I actually thought I needed to remove the well lid and see if maybe there was like a screw going all the way down through it. So this is a step you can skip. This is absolutely not necessary in any way, shape, or form. I decided to give up on the well for a moment and flip the figure over to see what I could and could not access. Now, as I'm pulling out the innards, there was a pop, and that pop was the well coming disconnected from the black plastic base. So this allows me at this point to pull a large portion of the innards out, especially the, I guess I call it the tower, which is for the flying witches that goes to the very top. Now, there are a ton of wires with this, as this is a light show piece. So, I am going to need to label everything before I disconnect anything. So that is going to be our next step of getting everything properly labeled. Using my ever-trusty Dynamo label maker, I have marked all of the wires with the exception of the motor that connects to the far left board on the bottom, third from the left. Most of these wires are for various LED lights in the building. If you get them mixed up when reconnecting, it shouldn't hurt anything, but will change the sequence of the lights. With everything labeled, I am gently pulling on the connectors to remove them from the boards. If any connectors feel stuck, I will not forcefully remove them. I will use a pick tool to assist. I do not want to break the plastic connectors. Once all the electrical connections are removed, we can go ahead and remove the inner workings of the figure and set it aside. This will go on to step 3 of replacing the motor. Let us take a moment to look over the inner workings to see if there is any damage or anything of concern. Touching the gears, there is no movement at all in the mechanics. This means that the motor isn't spinning and is locked up. This seems to be a common problem with Lemax items. In order to remove the motor, we're going to have to remove the speaker that sits above it first. As we can see, it's got some standoffs with this housing piece above it. Using a number 1 Phillips precision screwdriver, I'm going to go ahead and loosen these screws up, and be very careful not to lose them. Now, these are the same size screws that were in the bottom of the base holding the well together, so at least there is some commonality. Now, the one in the very back right corner that you can see here is actually not going to come out of the hole, as the circuit board is preventing it. So I'm just going to very carefully set this whole assembly off to the side. Now, taking a quick look at this, we still have a little bit further to go. So we have these 3 screws here that I also will be using a number 1 Phillips precision screwdriver to remove. I'll set these aside, and I keep everything in nice little small groupings of where they came from, just in case there is some sort of variance within sizes. Now, the best part of this is you don't have to go into the witches area or really any of the gears down below. All of our problems are going to be isolated in what just came off in my hand. I'm going to go ahead and set the base aside for a moment so we can take a closer look at the motor and the gears. So again, using a number 1 Phillips head screwdriver, we're going to be taking this top plate off. Now, take your time with this. These screws are smaller than the others. Additionally, keep your finger on the triangle like I just did here to hold everything in place. There is a little bit of tension on these gears underneath it. The last thing we want is gears to either go falling out or flying out. So it's very minor tension, but let's play it safe than sorry. So now we can lift this up, and here is our inner gear workings. It's amazing to think something so small drives something so large on this. So we have our series of gears that we're going to have to be taking out. Now, these are coated in grease. I'm not sure if you can tell that on your screen. So we'll start with this top one, pull and set aside. It looks to be in good shape too. Let's pull the next one. 2 looks to be in good shape. Alright, well, I was trying to pull the gear off the drive shaft of the motor here, but it looks like I'm just going to have to pop the motor out. But I'm going to go ahead and take out the remaining gears, although I can probably do it the other way around. One thing with the gears is if they're all installed, they will be covering 1 or 2 of the screws that you can see here for the motor. Now, these screws for the motor are significantly smaller than anything else you'll see in the entire build. As I get these out, the motor will just simply come out of the bottom of the base. And here is our motor. Now let's take a quick look at that and see what it is. That, in fact, says MX-300C-11440, with appears to have a 2022 manufacture date on it. The last step is to get the drive gear off of the shaft of the old motor and put it onto the new one. So today I'm going to be using a pair of clippers to wedge underneath the gear and just simply pry it up. I have had some success in the past with simply pulling, but oftentimes they're on there pretty good. I've put the drive gear back onto the shaft of the motor, and I've taken the old motor and cut the leads that connect to the circuit board. I'm going to solder the new motor connections in. First, I'll take 2 small pieces of heat shrink and slide it over each wire. Then I'll simply strip the wires and twist them together before applying flux and solder. Remember, red to red and black to black, or your motor will run backwards. Now that the motor is ready, we can go ahead and reattach it to the mounting plate and start reassembling. This officially marks halfway through the repair. So now that our motor is sitting on the base of this plate, I'm going to reattach it with the original screws. Again, these were super tiny little screws and there are only 2 of this particular size. Now, one thing to note about this, and we'll cover it later, is the drive gear itself is often where you'll find the noise from your piece coming from. If this gear is worn or unbalanced, it makes an awful racket. You can adjust it by sliding it up and down on the drive shaft, and possibly you might need a spacer just depending on what's going on, or possibly to replace if it's worn. It's that teeny tiny little gear will get you every time. If, say, it's a belt-driven piece and it is unbalanced, it makes a terrible noise as well. Found that out with the Black Raven Banner. So now I've got all of our gears back in place, go ahead and just tighten the top piece on. Now right now there is no tension, so don't have to worry about the gears going flying. Luckily, the gears only fit inside in one way, so it was very easy to reassemble. Now that we have everything assembled for our motor and gear assembly, it's time to put it back onto the inner workings. There are 3 standoffs on the base that are black plastic that we had removed 3 screws from earlier. Now, this piece only fits one way, so just take your time and line it up and make sure that the gears are sitting properly with the gears that are on the plastic base. Then, using my number 1 Phillips precision screwdriver, I'll go around and reattach those 3 screws. And last but not least, we can go ahead and put our speaker and circuit boards back on top over this. So as you recall, the back right is the screw that did not come out, and the other 2 did come out. So I'm just going to go ahead and preload the screws into the holes and set the whole assembly down, and then I'll tighten everything down. Now that everything is tightened down, it's time to go ahead and put the inner workings back into the building and reconnect all of our wires. I have the building flipped over so that I have easy access to the wires and circuit boards. In step 1 of this repair, everything was labeled so that I could reconnect it properly. The board on the right appears to control most of the light show of this piece, and the far left board has the blob chip for audio and programming and power distribution. The second to the left has a couple of additional lights. I'm going to leave all of the labels that I put onto the wires as there is room, and should I need to come back into this piece in the future, I will already be one step ahead. I'm taking great care with the connectors to the circuit board. I do not want to break these. Each connector is keyed, meaning that will only seat one way. Once everything is connected, the next part is going to be to tuck the wires and ensure that the drive shaft that controls the flying witches above the piece is lined up properly. I'll also do a quick power test just to make sure everything is working properly. I will say putting this back together turned out to be a little bit more tricky than I had anticipated. The drive shaft for the witches actually was the problem. Getting it lined up correctly, because it just seemed to want to grab absolutely everything on the inside of this, turned out to be a small challenge. But with everything on its side and tucking the wires and everything back in, I am eventually able to get it. After a couple of attempts. To ensure everything is lined up properly, looking at the top of the piece, we should be able to see the orange drive shaft at the very top. The last part of this is putting the well back in. Now, originally I didn't take this out because I didn't know to, and it kind of just popped out. So I will put it in place and you will actually feel it click into place, and it takes a moment to get there. Then we'll flip the piece over and put the 2 screws back into the base that were removed in step 2. This will secure the well back to the fixture. Now I will have some additional work to do with this, as I did remove the roof of the well when that absolutely wasn't necessary. I wanted to show you where the well clips in, and you can see it in this lower section on your screen towards the center. Now, with everything in place, it's time to glue everything back together. In order to glue everything back together, I'm going to lightly pull the bottom inner workings out and apply glue in various places around the edge of the black plastic, and not directly to the base of the house. I'm doing it this way for my best chance of success with getting everything lined back up. Once I get this done, I'll re-glue the well cover that I should have never taken off to begin with, and then we can move on to the final reveal. And here it is, our Lemax Wicked Coven Garden, fully repaired for the grand price of $3. I couldn't be happier with how this turned out, and I am happy to have this back in my little village in my dining room. Let me know what you thought about this video. I'd love to hear your comments. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to give this a difficulty rating of 6, mainly just because there's so many little parts that you have to keep up with. And one last thing. With this repair, because I have moved all the inner gear workings, the noise level is significantly reduced. Thank you for watching my repair of the Wicked Coven Garden. If you'd like this video, like and subscribe for more.